While this space is currently a thriving tech hub, it sure didn't look like that before. One of the artifacts found is a gold ring, which is engraved with the figure of the Good Shepherd. The best part about the Wim Hof method is that it provides a variety of health benefits, and almost anyone can do it. This phenomenon isn't limited to gatherings in nature around a campfire. It also takes place in big cities like Tel Aviv. You can catch a glimpse of ibex right behind me. While their natural habitat is the desert, they've come to this spot in Sde Boker to feed. The exhibition also combines art throughout history with modern messages, including in pieces like these. 28-year-old Malet Ben Chaim is one of the survivors of the Nova Festival, who is now sharing her story of the horror on that day, on the grounds where the massacre took place.
It was like the peak of the party. It's a very joyful moment. And then the music stopped.
That was when a barrage of rockets flew over her head. She would eventually realize the area was under attack by terrorists.
We got out of the car, you can hear the shooting. It's terrifying, it keeps getting closer and closer, and we all looked at each other like, what are we supposed to do?
She and her friends would soon run for their lives.
It's open field and people are falling down, and you try to block that.
Malet says it was during this time she felt helpless, as she looked around and felt like there was no place to go.
And eventually me and 3 other girls, we got under this something in between a tree and a bush.
Malet would hide there for around 6 hours. She was unsure if she would make it out alive, so she prayed and sent a message to her family.
I wrote that I really loved them, and I wrote that I'm happy with the life I had.
Malet was eventually rescued, and whether it's on social media or in person, she's now telling her story as a representative of Survived to Tell.
I don't have words to describe how scary it is.
The project allows survivors of the massacre to share their testimonies with the world, a role she says is important in the age of social media and misinformation.
I think that there is something different about seeing an actual living person that experienced that can share their own story, rather than just, keep scrolling and seeing information like that. And I know that difficult as it is, it has a different impact.
We're able to see firsthand what's going on, and we feel that it's our job to then go back, go to our schools, go to our communities, and share what we've seen firsthand, and we'll never stop.
Wael Malet is one of the survivors of the Nova Music Festival massacre that is now sharing her story. Unfortunately, for around 360 people that were killed at the site, it's too late. Reporting from Southern Israel, Erica Jackson, I-24 News. At the Museum for Islamic Art in Jerusalem, stories of a devastated and grieving daughter, a woman who went out to protest only to never return home, and the woman whose death sparked demonstrations across Iran are highlighted in a video art exhibit which focuses on 5 women who have become symbols of the women's protests across Iran.
There's a lot of visual art which comes alongside poetry. The artworks are published through social media. I started to collect artworks which touched me, inspired me, and that I liked.
Orly Cohen, the curator of 5 Women, Life, Freedom, says the idea to create the exhibit began following protests in Iran after the death of Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old who Iranian police detained for allegedly having hair visible under her headscarf, and who fell into a coma after collapsing at a detention center. She died just 3 days after in the hospital, which sparked international protests.
Mahsa became the so-called Statue of Liberty of Iran.
But the struggle for women's rights in Iran has been a decades-long battle. A battle that dates back to the Iranian Revolution in 1979, when Ayatollah Khomeini announced an Islamic dress code that became mandatory and women lost most of their rights. The exhibit also tells the story of one woman who became a symbol of the fight for women's freedom more recently in history, in the year 2017, Vida Movahedi.
She removed her headscarf and put it on a stick and waved it. She was immediately arrested. Ever since then, she became a symbol, and the white headscarf became a very important symbol.
The exhibit also features more women who have died violently from these demonstrations, including the story of Hadis Najafi, who went viral in a video of her preparing to go out and protest. She never returned home.
One day she went out to a protest in her city. She sent a message to her friend that she's proud to be in this protest because she'll know she was a part of this in the future when everything will change. After half an hour, she was shot with 6 bullets. She died immediately. After a few hours, videos surfaced of her tying up her hair and walking towards the protest, and they flooded social media. Many girls in Iran and abroad made videos of themselves tying up their hair as a tribute.
While some women didn't participate in the demonstrations across Iran in 2022, they've still paid the ultimate price with their lives or bodies.
Fereshteh Ahmadi didn't go to the protest. She was standing on the roof of her house.
Ahmadi, a mother of 2, was shot to death. A picture of her weeping daughter tells the story of the family members whose lives have been changed forever as a result of the violence during these protests.
The world was touched by the image of her young daughter crying and holding in her tiny hand the dust and dirt where her mum was buried. Only 24 hours later, the image of these hands became a source for many artworks which were spread across social media.
But Ahmadi is just one of the women who has suffered at the hands of violence despite not taking part in the demonstrations.
Ghazal was on the street with her mother when a guard fired a metal bullet at her eye. She wasn't even in a protest. Ghazal, a brave and exceptionally beautiful woman, shared her experience on her Instagram page. She said, "They can take my eye away, but they cannot shut me up and take away my desire to live and my desire to live freely."
Art, a symbol of tragedy, but also of hope across Iran.